Okay, for this project we're going to use petroleum jelly, cotton balls, jute twine, cotton pads dipped in hot wax, steel wool, ferrocerium rod shavings, and rub cloth. We'll explain that in a minute. But first we're going to start out with the jute twine and kind of pull the fibers apart. That way we can get as much combustion as possible. And so we'll pull the fibers apart, and we'll also do the same thing with the steel wool. As much as possible, pull everything apart. The more air that you get into the fibers, or the smaller the fibers are, the better, the more oxygen can go through it, and the fire has more room to breathe. We're also going to use cotton pads dipped in wax. These by themselves are pretty good fire starters, and we're going to cut them up and try to get the fibers exposed around the edges, and then chop them up later on into smaller pieces. Finally, or not finally, but we're also going to use what is known as Ranger bands, or bicycle tire bands, which are cut horizontally and used as really strong rubber bands. But we'll cut these up because that rubber is flammable, and obviously the smaller we cut that up as well will be better. Next is rub cloth. Rub cloth is any kind of cloth, but cotton, 100% cotton will work best. But 100% cotton with gunpowder that is moistened with a little bit of water and rubbed into the cloth and then allowed to dry. When that's used, or when it's ignited, it burns extremely hot and fast. So now we're mixing everything together with the petroleum jelly, continuing to pull together or pull apart the fibers and mix everything in. Petroleum jelly is also flammable, and as it mixes into the fibers of the jute twine and the cotton balls, it'll cause that to burn longer and hotter. So basically, mixing everything together, exposing as much fibers as possible, and obviously the rubber and the rub cloth will not mix as thoroughly, but we're still going to have a pretty good product at the end. And finally, wrapping it up here, put it all away. And what's best, and I'll show you in just a moment, vacuum seal chunks of this stuff together. And that way you can just open it up and use it. It doesn't get wet, and it provides a very good fire starter, especially in the case of emergency. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed that. What we had left of what we made was about 6 packages this size, vacuum sealed. It'll keep it dry and compact. And I always cut the sides so you can open it up even with gloves on. So there you have it. That combined a lot of traditional fire making materials: jute twine, cotton pads soaked in wax, and a number of different things. But as you could tell, it burned for about 10 minutes, and that's a whole lot more than, say, a cotton pad soaked in wax, which will burn for about 3 to 5 minutes depending on how big it is. Now obviously that's a lot more material, but it also burned a lot hotter, so you could even use a lot of very damp materials, and it should dry them out if you're using small twigs. So it works awesome, puts out a lot of heat. It's going to dry out some small stuff to be able to get a fire going. I wouldn't see the sense in using this unless you do not have time to build a fire in a traditional way. And to me, this is you're camping in the snow, or there's an emergency, it's cold, and you've got to get a fire built. And so that's what these would be for, is that type of emergency. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe.